The effects of climate change are in the news more and more.
Here's what's happening right now.
70 degrees in February, the record we smashed today, and the impact this unusually warm stretch is having on local businesses.
The economics of climate change are rather involved. You have the upfront costs like flood damage, insurance rates, and stress on the environment. Then there's the financial impact on industries like agriculture and tourism. And then, and this is where it gets political, you have the cost of converting the entire world from fossil fuels over to energy sources that don't hurt the environment, like wind, the sun, and plants.
Who pays for this monumental change and who stands to make money are considerations many say have become obstacles to climate change action. Those people say there's more to it than money. The future of our planet and future generations hang in the balance. They also insist you can have both a sound economy and a cleaner environment. Milder winters are changing not only the economy, but a way of life in northern Wisconsin. Big tourist draws like snowmobiling, ice fishing, and skiing are shrinking with our warmer winters.
There's just going to be a shorter season for all of those things. And so that means to some extent a way of life is being lost.
Perhaps most notably, the American Birkebeiner, the nation's biggest cross-country ski race in far northern Wisconsin, was canceled in 2017 and 2000 because of a lack of snow. The same problem forced organizers to shorten the race several times in recent years, too. Summer tourism is also being hurt with warmer temperatures that are leaving fewer walleye and trout and taking a toll on what's left.
We found growth rates of fishes that depend on the shallow water declining all around the state.
And tourism is just one Wisconsin industry suffering from the climate change effect. Logging companies are hurt by the wet, soft soil conditions that are in forests during heavy rain years like 2017 and during the warmer winters we've been having. Winter's usually the busy season for loggers because they can run those big machines on the hard, frozen ground without tearing up the forest or getting stuck.
Oh, I'd say in the last few years it's been slowly going downhill a little bit, mostly because of the weather and the excessive rain and the short winters.
In the historic record, has it been shrinking? And we found that yes, in fact, we've got 2 or 3 weeks less frozen ground per year than we did earlier in the century.
Scientists say Wisconsin's forests are also in danger of losing certain tree types to warmer conditions and to heat stress, disease, and insects that come with climate change. But right now, loggers are just trying to keep their operations above water.
We just keep telling ourselves it's going to be drier next year, and we'll make up lost ground then.
Insurance companies have lost a lot of ground to climate change in recent years as bigger storms bring in bigger numbers of customers with bigger damage claims.
The weather volatility is just causing more claims to be submitted in the industry as a whole, anywhere from 10 to 15% more claims on those property homeowners type claims. The more claims that you get, the more it has the potential to impact rate.
In 2013, Madison-based American Family Insurance sent this letter to some of its Madison area customers, notifying them of a significant increase in their premium with the explanation, our climate is changing and that wind and hail claims have exceeded premiums charged in 8 of the past 10 years. Claims have also skyrocketed for flood and crop insurance.
The long-term weather patterns are changing, and we know that they are becoming more extreme when they happen.
And with that in mind, we just need to get to the point where we start building homes and businesses to withstand the forces of nature.
American Family is also working to develop tougher building materials like shingles that can survive hailstorms. They're also recommending that new homes in Wisconsin now be built with hurricane straps, like they do in southern states. Those strips of metal connect the frame to the roof to keep it from blowing off in a storm. Utility companies like farms are both victim and perpetrator of the climate change effect. The increase in stronger storms has meant many more down power lines, whether it's the wind knocking down the poles themselves, like this scene from Iowa County in June of 2017, or knocking the trees into the power lines, which happens often in northern Wisconsin.
Throughout the nation, there's really not any efforts this large in scope. Overall, it'll be about 2,000 miles of cable placed underground.
WPS is spending $400 million over the next 5 years to bury those power lines in northern Wisconsin to protect them from the stronger storms. But utilities are also part of the problem. Their burning of fossil fuels to generate our electricity has been and is a big contributor to the greenhouse effect. Renewable energy like wind, sun, and plants is the solution. Now, Wisconsin had been a leader in moving from fossils to renewables. In 2006, the state set a goal of generating 10% of its electricity from renewable energy by the year 2015 and achieved that goal 2 years early. But since then, Wisconsin government leaders have not raised the bar, and the National Conference of State Legislatures shows we now have one of the lowest renewable energy standards in the country.
The Public Service Commission can dictate rules and regulations or nudge power companies along saying, hey, what can we do to have more renewables in the state of Wisconsin, make it economically viable to produce renewables here in the state of Wisconsin, or energy period in the state of Wisconsin, and create a whole bunch of jobs.
But even with little government support, renewable energy generation in Wisconsin still provides more than twice as many jobs as fossil fuel energy generation. Another irony is that some of the nation's most cutting-edge research into renewable energy is being done here in Wisconsin.
The work in this lab is focused on producing fuels and chemicals that we currently derive from petroleum.
Scientists at the Great Lakes Bioenergy Research Center are looking at ways to use plants we don't eat, like prairie grass and trees, in the same ways we now use oil, refining them into multiple chemicals, including fuel that's cleaner.
The CO2 that's released is still CO2. It's just an issue of, are you recycling CO2 or taking old buried CO2 that's been underground for millions of years and releasing it into the atmosphere.
Experts say the fact that utilities are transitioning on their own to more renewables like biofuel, wind, and solar is evidence of both the environmental and economic benefits. And they say history shows Wisconsin can have a clean environment and a sound economy.
In my career, it was often pointed out that the cost of cleaning up rivers like the Fox River and reducing the pollution, it was just going to cost too many jobs, too many paper mills would close down. 35 years later, none of that's come to fruition, yet the water quality has improved.
If you don't take care of the environment, you stand to lose economically. If a lake dries up in central Wisconsin because we're overpumping the water up there for irrigation, that's going to hurt the economy.
Climate change scientists and their supporters say it's hard to put a dollar figure on the future of the planet. But one thing is certain, it's pay now or pay potentially much more later. Next, the cost of climate change on our public discourse and our attitude towards science.